kind of big picture, okay? I realize there are other things on folks' mind. Holidays, hiring a new coach, coaches' lawsuits against LSU, like plenty of other things. But there is one more game to play here. And the matchup is so poor for LSU's offense against Oklahoma's defense that I want to start on the other side of the ball and talk about Oklahoma's offense against LSU's defense. Keep in mind, this Oklahoma offense is not very good. Oklahoma, in terms of the SEC, is 13th of 16 teams in total offense. Oklahoma on the season averages 350 yards per game. LSU averages 345 yards per game. Oklahoma's 13th, LSU's 14th. Florida and South Carolina are worse. So if you've looked at LSU's offense and you've gone, well, these guys are terrible, what a bad offense, and you look at Oklahoma's offense, you would have to say about the same thing. I showed you how close they are, 13th and 14th. They're 5 yards per game apart. If you look at yards per play, Oklahoma gains 5.31 yards per play. LSU gains 5.30 yards per play. It's the same. Now, LSU doesn't have Garrett Nussmeier, and John Mateer is back. But the point stands that it's not been a great Oklahoma offense to this point. They are winning games with their defense and a really strong running game. You look at the scores of these big wins that they're scoring. They beat Missouri 17-6. They beat Alabama 23-21. Now, they beat Tennessee 33-28, which does stand out a little bit. But keep in mind that Tennessee has a porous defense on the back end. They don't do a good job in terms of pass defense. The guy that Oklahoma wants to get going, we talked to Brandon Drum about this in our first segment, is Xavier Robinson. He's running back, 6 feet tall, 240 pounds, and they want to get him going. But they haven't featured him to the extent that I think they probably should. The one time they did was against Tennessee. They gave him 16 carries for 115 yards. He scored a touchdown. That's the only game this year he's gotten more than 12 carries. That's telling to me. Like, why do you have this guy who is averaging 5.5 yards per carry, who has played in 8 games this year, and you're not giving him the ball as much as the statistics suggest you probably should? But he's probably their best player on offense, considering the way that Mateer has played since the injury. And that's something that I would count on Brandon Drum, who we had on our first segment today, more than I would count on myself there, because he watches every snap and I just see what I see. But Mateer, since the injury, just has not been nearly the same. He threw for 392 in the opener, 270 against Michigan, 282 at Temple, 271 against a good Auburn defense. Then he got hurt. Comes back. 202 yards and 3 picks against Texas. South Carolina, 150 yards. Ole Miss, 223. Tennessee, 159. Alabama, 138. Missouri, 173. It's been underwhelming. I just showed you that their running back's not been a bell cow in terms of carries, and their quarterback has only cracked 200 yards once since October the 11th. This is not a great Oklahoma offense. Now, LSU is going to use Whit Weeks for about 30 snaps based on what he told us last night. He's still recovering from a broken ankle, and he's going to give him what he can. He split that ankle in half. It's healing. It's probably going to take till the bowl game, but he's going to give him what you got. Mansour Delane, I'm not sure. I'm a little bit doubtful. We'll see what Frank Wilson has to say on Wednesday night. We'll see what the injury reports say. But you may be missing him the whole game and Whit Weeks a good portion of the game. How badly does that hurt? because you had Delane against Arkansas. You didn't have Weeks, but he's a big piece to what you're doing. I like LSU against the run pretty good. I think they're deep enough and stout enough to hold their own. Can DBU cover up these Oklahoma receivers, specifically Isaiah Satania, who is a big-time home run hitter with his speed? I think they'll do okay. I think LSU's defense will come to play. Then you have to go to the other side of the ball, and you've got to go to the LSU offense. And when you look up national statistics, sacks, Oklahoma leads the nation in sacking the quarterback. 2 more than Texas A&M, almost 4 a game. Well, LSU is coming to this game with no left tackle and no starting center and a backup quarterback. That is a recipe for disaster to me. Now, can you run the ball? Well, Oklahoma leads the nation in tackles for loss, and they're 3rd in the nation in rushing defense in terms of yards per game. You look at yards per carry, they're 2nd in the nation. So you're probably not going to run it great, and you probably can't protect the passer great. That's a tall order for Alex Atkins. I'm sorry. I realize he wasn't brought to LSU to run the offense, call the plays, and be the offensive mastermind, but this is a tall order for him. And I know that everyone gets frustrated with the consistent screens and throwing it out to the perimeter, But if you can't run it and you can't drop back and plan on getting the ball down the field, all that really leaves is dumping into the flats and throwing screens. And that's what LSU has done a ton of. You look at the SEC statistics in terms of completions, and because of what LSU does, you see that they're 2nd in the league, just 3 completions behind Alabama. There's a world where LSU, through 12 games, leads the SEC in completions. And it's an indictment on the offense because it's the only thing they can do is just flip it out there to be caught. You look at yards per attempt, LSU falls down to 14th in the SEC. They complete a lot of passes. They don't get a lot of yards per attempt. It's a bad matchup. I don't know what else to tell you on that front. I got a question today on Lafayette Radio on the hit that I was doing. Well, what would give you confidence that LSU could win the game? And I said, well, I think if they played it 20 times, LSU would win 2 or 3. That's what I think. With Van Buren, no Tyree Adams, no Braylon Moore, maybe no Aaron Anderson, no Nussmeier. 2 or 3, I think you win out of 20. 10%, a little bit more than that. And the way you would win is your defense comes to play. And like Missouri held Oklahoma to 17 points, hold them to 13 or 17. And try to beat them the way you beat South Carolina. Try to beat them the way you beat Clemson. Sadly, try to beat them the way you beat Louisiana Tech. And try to beat them the way that you beat Western Kentucky. Now, I'll say that tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but that's the blueprint. You get a turnover, set up a short field, punch one in, maybe you hit a trick play on them. But, if you just line up, if LSU just lines up and runs this thing traditionally and both teams play to about their standard, Oklahoma's going to win by 2 scores because you're just not ready to deal with that defense play in and play out. Now, for one play, for a big play, sure. Now, for one play, for a trick play, sure. And if you don't need a lot of plays because your defense keeps you in it, keeps that score low, maybe. That's the blueprint. But I have my sincere doubts about whether or not LSU can get that done. So, I'll pick it now. I was going to say for the end of the show, but I'll pick it now. I think that Oklahoma smothers LSU defensively in that stadium in this spot. I think LSU cannot block them. I think that they're forced into several 3-and-outs. I think the defense is put in almost an impossible spot because of that. And I think the game gets out of hand in the 4th quarter. I'm picking Oklahoma to win it 26-6. I see a game where LSU can't sustain drives. And when you can't sustain drives, your defense plays too much, you lose field position, and Oklahoma will eventually, in front of that crowd, find a way to crack into that LSU defense, especially if Whit Weeks has a sit down and Mansour Delane doesn't play. You're just not quite the same unit that you once were. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope LSU goes up there, puts up a valiant fight, and even finds a way to win the game. But to me, I got 26-6 Oklahoma beating LSU in Norman on Saturday. I hope I'm wrong. Hope I'm dead wrong. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.